but it was a very insightful session, both presentations on how PIAAC data can be successfully converted into policies, also research, very interesting indicators, food for thought indeed. So in the context of the global skills agenda also. Now we are moving on to our next session. Our next speaker is Ms. Anne Branch. Anne is Head of Unit at the Union of Skills at the Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion in this European Commission. And Anne will be speaking about how PIAAC is shaping European Union policy. Anne, please, when ready, please come up to the stage.
So, good afternoon, everybody, and a big thank you to the OECD and the Spanish Ministry for inviting the European Commission today. Apologies, our Director General, Mario Nava, was unable to make the speaking slot, so I'm stepping in for him, but I can assure you you'll hear the same messages. And welcome, of course, good afternoon to all of you here and to those of you who are online. And perhaps just picking up on what Mark said about two-headed beasts, I can assure you that from the European Commission perspective, we don't view this duality as a beast at all. In fact, this is for us a good best practice. We think it's so important to bring the domains of education and skills and employment and labour market together. And that's very much the philosophy we have underpinning our latest strategy on skills, the Union of Skills that was adopted in March this year. So that's my take on the beast. But it's an honour, coming to the substance of my speech, it's an honour to address this 7th International PIAAC Conference on behalf of the European Commission. And it's at a moment when skills have never been more central to Europe's future. Europe is navigating profound transformations, the green and digital transitions, demographic change, geopolitical instability, and rapid technological innovation. And in all of these, one thing remains constant. People's skills, and especially their basic skills, are the foundation of resilience, adaptability, and prosperity. The OECD's survey of adult skills has given us an unprecedented window into the reality of adults' basic skills, their strengths, their gaps, and their needs. And without this evidence, European and national policymakers would be navigating in the dark. When speaking about basic skills for adults, this means at least 3 core pillars for us: literacy, numeracy, and basic digital skills. And PIAAC allows us to better understand the first 2. Now, these skills are not basic because they are simple. They are basic because they are the basis for everything else: for further learning, for employability and access to quality jobs, for upskilling and reskilling throughout life, and for health, financial stability, and civic participation. Adults with weak basic skills face a double disadvantage. They're more likely to be in precarious, low-paying jobs or out of work, and they're also less likely to participate in further training, creating a vicious circle. At a time of rapidly changing labour markets, where AI learns things in days that takes human beings years to learn, adults need to be able to adapt. For example, the clean and digital transformations require that workers understand new procedures, technologies, and regulations. Additionally, nearly every job now involves digital tools and information flows. Without strong basic skills, these transitions risk leaving many adults behind, especially those with low education attainment, older workers, migrants and people with a migrant background, and people living in rural or disadvantaged urban areas. For the European Commission, therefore, investing in basic skills isn't a social add-on, it's a precondition for a competitive economy, a fair labour market, social cohesion and democracy. And PIAAC has been a game changer for understanding the state of adult basic skills in Europe. It's a one-of-a-kind survey that tests the skills of adults It doesn't just ask them to subjectively assess their own skills. Across participating EU member states, PIAAC reveals 3 broad messages. First, a large share of adults struggle with basic skills. Around 1 in 5 perform at the lowest levels in both literacy and numeracy. This means difficulty with everyday tasks such as understanding a payslip, comparing prices in a shop, or interpreting health information. Second, there are large differences both between and within countries. Some member states perform near the top of the OECD distribution, as we've seen, while others face much higher proportions of low-skilled adults. And within countries, gaps between highly and low-educated adults or between younger and older cohorts are substantial. And third, socioeconomic inequalities are striking, with family and socioeconomic background strongly affecting skills levels. Crucially, PIAAC connects skills to outcomes. Adults with stronger literacy and numeracy skills are more likely to be in work, to earn higher wages, and to participate in further learning, as we just heard, and that they also report better health and higher levels of trust and civic engagement. And this evidence confirms that addressing low basic skills isn't just about education, it's a strategic investment in employment, health, and democracy. Over the past decade, the European Union has built a strong policy framework on adult learning and basic skills to try to come with solutions. Key milestones, our greatest hits perhaps, include the 2017 European Pillar of Social Rights, especially Principles 1 and 4 on education, training, and active support to employment. And this was proclaimed by the European Parliament and Council also at the 2017 Gothenburg Summit. The 2016 Council recommendation on upskilling pathways, which specifically targeted adults with low levels of skills, and member states were invited to offer 3 key elements to these people: skills assessment, tailored learning offers with a strong focus on basic skills, and validation and recognition of the skills they acquire. Then in 2020, the European Skills Agenda had actions on lifelong learning, micro-credentials, individual learning accounts, and the Pact for Skills. And most recently, in March this year, the Commission adopted the Union of Skills, which is our latest strategy for skills, and it adopted action plans on basic skills and STEM, which all highlight the key role that skills play as a horizontal enabler of competitiveness. In particular, we have a new action on innovative learning spaces, and this will target specifically adults with low basic skills. And in the context of individual learning accounts, we're exploring with our member states how people can be more empowered with the means to prioritize their learning. And in this context, since we're gathered today in Madrid, let me highlight Spain's active participation in the 3rd round of the Individual Learning Accounts Mutual Learning Program. It was a real pleasure to work closely with the Spanish delegation, and we look forward to supporting further progress in the implementation of individual learning accounts in Spain. Now, EU funding strongly supports these priorities. The European Social Fund is the main EU instrument for human capital and social inclusion, financing basic skills programs, outreach, guidance, and second chance education. And it's estimated that over 40 billion euros are being invested in skills during this current 7-year EU budget. The Recovery and Resilience Facility has allowed member states to accelerate reforms and investments in digital and green skills, including for low-skilled adults. And Erasmus Plus supports innovation and cooperation in adult learning, including high-quality basic skills provision, digital tools, and community outreach. Now, for all of the policies I mentioned earlier, adults with weak basic skills are a core concern, as without tackling this group, EU targets on skills and employment won't be reached. But to tackle the challenge, we agree that we need data. At EU level, robust data is really essential for credible, effective, and targeted policy, and PIAAC is a central element in the skills evidence base that informs the strategies and initiatives that I mentioned. In addition, PIAAC results are feeding directly and indirectly into the European semester and country-specific recommendations, especially where basic skills and adult learning are a bottleneck for growth and inclusion. And indeed, skills are becoming an even more integral part of the European semester with a new human capital recommendation to member states that was introduced in this year's autumn package. And one of the recommendations is to strengthen basic skills to build solid foundations for greater competitiveness. Now, by identifying which groups are most at risk of low basic skills, PIAAC helps the EU and member states to target upskilling to those who need them most, to align adult learning offers with labour market needs and social inclusion objectives, and to monitor progress over time and to benchmark themselves against peers. And it's very interesting also to get this comparison beyond the EU. At the technical level, PIAAC complements EU data collections such as the Adult Education Survey, the Labour Force Survey, and other EU statistics. And together, they provide a fuller picture of who participates in learning, what skills they have, and which policies make a difference. So in summary, PIAAC isn't indeed just a research exercise, it is a policy tool that helps transform political priorities into concrete actions and investments. And we at the Commission would like to thank the OECD and the involved countries for their thorough work on PIAAC. The European Commission is an important supporter, considering that EU member states are the biggest bloc of countries taking part in the survey. And the support takes several forms. The first is political backing for the participation of our member states and underlining the strategic importance of PIAAC data. The second is financial support for national participation in PIAAC through the co-funding of the international fees to the OECD through the Erasmus Plus programme, as well as co-funding the implementation at national level through the European Social Fund. Also, we provided financial support to the related report on understanding skills gaps in firms based on the PIAAC employer module. The Commission is also helping to bring PIAAC results into the policy sphere by using PIAAC-based indicators in important EU analytical and monitoring reports, by supporting peer learning, conferences and working groups where countries share how they use PIAAC to design reforms, and encouraging member states to use PIAAC to target skills investments more effectively. So this support really reflects EU commitment to evidence-based policy making. Now, looking to the future, the question for policymakers isn't whether PIAAC is useful, it clearly is. The question is rather how PIAAC can evolve to remain even more relevant in a fast-changing world. And we see several directions that we could suggest as being important from an EU policy perspective. The first is the issue of timeliness and continuity of data. So regular, predictable cycles are really useful so that member states can track progress and the impact of reforms. And ideally, shorter time lags between data collection and publication to support timely decision-making. Second, better coverage of digital skills. Basic digital skills are one of the essentials of today's labour market, so it would be useful to explore if there's a way of capturing them over time, taking into account rapidly evolving digital tools and applications. Third, the issue of skills for job transitions. As job transitions are a common occurrence in today's and likely future labour market, probably affecting everybody. So a better understanding of job transitions and their interactions with skill levels will be crucial. And this concerns in particular workers in declining sectors and older workers, as we just heard. The fourth direction we could point to is we would like to get full EU coverage. We'd really welcome this, so we would really encourage all member states to take part in PIAAC. Currently, 20 EU countries or regions take part. Fifth, we think stronger linkages between PIAAC and other data on lifelong learning, such as administrative data, would be useful to understand trajectories better over time. And also better data on participation in non-formal and informal learning and how it relates to changes in basic skills would be useful. And sixth and finally, making PIAAC results more accessible to policymakers, practitioners and the general public would be important. And here the Commission can also help. We're setting up a new European Skills Intelligence Observatory as part of the Union of Skills, and data such as PIAAC can be profiled there. So with better data, we can design better policies. And ultimately, the goal is shared to ensure that no adult in Europe is left behind because they weren't given a fair chance to build strong basic skills. So to conclude, allow me to return to the central message, which is that basic skills are not a luxury. They are a necessity for individuals and for Europe as a whole. PIAAC has made visible what was often hidden: the millions of adults who navigate everyday life with insufficient literacy and numeracy, the inequalities that persist between and within our societies, but also the progress that is possible when countries act with determination. The European Commission will continue, therefore, to place basic skills and adult learning at the heart of its policies and to make it a reality for all, and to work closely with the OECD and all of you to ensure that data like PIAAC continues to guide better policy. And we hope this conference will be a moment not only of reflection, but also of renewed commitment. A renewed commitment to ensure that every adult in Europe has the basic skills to learn, to work, to participate, and to shape our common future. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.